Hey guys, this is Nate and this is the Nader Tater channel. Today I have Verizon's 4G LTE based home internet. This is fixed wireless. Let's open it up. We'll see what this gateway is like, what the setup is like. We can log into it, see what kind of features it offers as far as router goes and DHCP, NAT type, any kind of port forwarding, that kind of stuff that it has. And then we got to check and see what the speeds are like for it. And I'll talk about the pros and cons that this thing has, as well as what kind of limitations or restrictions that they have in place for it. Alright, so for the setup guide here, it basically just says plug it in, wait for it to start up, and then you can scan the QR code for the My Verizon app, or you can just open up your My Verizon app and it'll help you go through the setup. Alright, so here's the little unit. Alright, so there's not a lot to it. You have basically the gateway itself, and then you have the power cable and the power brick and an Ethernet cable that you can use for wired connection, but it also has built-in Wi-Fi. Alright, so the cable is a little bit short here. It's probably only about 4 feet long. Alright, so before I show it here, I'm just going to show you on the bottom here. There is 2 Ethernet ports and the power port that go in here. And then as far as the Wi-Fi goes, it is Wi-Fi 5, not Wi-Fi 6, which is the AC moniker, not the AX. But that's still plenty fast for the needs there. It's just not the latest and greatest. Alright, so I just plugged it in and we get this white flashy light. Let me follow these setup instructions here on my phone. Alright, so it says it takes about 2 minutes to start up, and then it might take 10 minutes to do a software update. So don't unplug it once you plug it in. And I want to wait for the solid white light. Okay, it only took about 5 minutes or so, and it's set up here. So now I'm going to connect via Wi-Fi to it. You can also plug in that Ethernet cable if you wanted to. And now the Wi-Fi SSID and password is on the bottom of the router, and I am going to cheat a little bit on here because I want to scan the QR code that's on the bottom. So I can pick this up and I can scan this QR code. That basically just passes the Wi-Fi name and password, since it's kind of a weird when I don't feel like typing it in. So now it's connected. Alright, so let's do a quick speed test and see what it gives me. So now I've heard that these are capped around 50 megabits per second. You saw I was obviously faster than that for a while. Looks like it is kind of capping it. Look fairly flat line there. That's for the download. Then the upload here, you can see I'm only getting a couple megabits per second, so that's not very good. I also don't think I'm getting the best signal, so I'm going to have to move this around a little bit and see if I can improve the signal and see if that changes the speeds at all. But I can tell you the ping of 25 megabits, or sorry, 25 milliseconds, that is pretty good for this now. But what's interesting is I do have a 1.8% loss, and it might be that I have too many Wi-Fi devices right here all together. So let me move this around and see if I can improve it. I want to log into it. Okay, so I'm back down here on my computer. I'm going to hop on to my YouTube channel. I'm going to click on the Verizon 5G one, and I'm going to see if it will do the 4K resolution here. This is the main unit here. Alright, so it looks like it is playing this just fine, and it has the buffer well out in advance of the timeline. So it looks like it can do 4K just fine. Now, you know, the documentation says that it might not support that, but that's not appearing to be the case. So it looks like you can stream 4K. So now the next step, really, I would say, is for me to plug my Asus AI mesh system, which my whole house uses for Wi-Fi internet, and then I can do a test on the Roku, and I can test all these other devices all going through this 4G gateway for internet. Alright, so I'm going to go to the address of this gateway, which is just the 192.168.0.1. And now it asks for the password. Now the password is on the bottom of the gateway. It's still that same area that has the Wi-Fi information. So let me type in that. Alright. So now we're logged in here, and you can see again it has the IP address, the MAC address, the software. It tells me I'm connected, and I can go in here to the Wi-Fi settings, and I can obviously change any SSID. The band steering means that it has one SSID that is both your 2.4 and your 5 gigahertz, but then it will use whichever band is best for the device. So some devices might only be a 2.4 gigahertz capable, so naturally they would use them. But if they're close enough and have a good signal, it will or probably prefer the 5 gigahertz because that's going to be faster throughput. So that's what your settings are there. If you were to need to do custom channel, looks like it lets you do that, as well as you pick your bandwidth for your channel. And then 5 gigahertz, I'm sure it's the same thing. Okay, so this is interesting because the user guide actually says it does not support AX, but clearly here it does say it doesn't. I noticed on the bottom of it, it does say Wi-Fi 6 certified. So they might have updated that at some point, perhaps. And then it has a guest network that you can activate, and that typically just prevents access to the local network, but gives it internet access. Alright, so here you can see my devices. I'm on my computer now, obviously, and then I was on my phone earlier. Alright, and this is just telling you how you can set up WPS. Alright, for parental controls, you can add a device and then you can control it. So you can add like a kid's device and then control it. Here's the network map. You can see that I have my 2 over Wi-Fi are connected, nothing over Ethernet, and it says it's connected to internet, so that's all good. Alright, so there's your IPv4 and 6. Alright, so this is, I really want to get into the signal quality of the gateway so I can try to improve it. Here it tells me that I am on 5G NSA, so that's 5G non-standalone. Alright, so let me keep going here. Alright, so that's just how much data I've moved through recently here. Alright, so here's how you can set up your DHCP server or turn it off, as well as change things like your primary DNS. If you wanted a custom one like Google, you could change that here. Alright, IPv6 is active. Let's go here to device settings. Alright, so you have admin password, date, time, backup, restore. We don't need any of that. All right, so diagnostics is just to ping a specific. This is a Google DNS that it has loaded in there by default. So I'm just gonna hit start and see what it does there. All right, so it looks like it's pinging that fine. All right, so for security on firewall, right now it's defaulted to the medium, and then it has these guys on denial of service, SPI, and WAN block ping. Okay. So IP to MAC binding, this is if you want to give a specific device a static IP address. So, you know, if you have, let's say, a printer or a camera and you want it to always have the same local IP address, you could bind that IP address to that MAC of that device and it will always have that same IP. Okay, so this is if you want to create a blacklist or a whitelist. So blacklist would be it always blocks certain devices, and a whitelist would be it always grants access to certain devices. So it gives you a little bit of firewall and control there. All right, this is good. It looks like it gives you a DMZ option. So this basically would turn, this is kind of like a bridge mode. This turns your gateway into more or less just a modem, and then all of the routing and firewall stuff will be handled by something else like your own router. So this is how I would set it up to use it, because I have a Asus AI mesh that I want to do all of the real configuring on. So I would turn that DMZ on, and then I would manually pick which I need to plug in my my router, and then I would tell it to have my router be the DMZ host. Okay, and then here's the plug and play setting, on or off. Here's some of these ALG settings for you know, this is again, if you don't know what these are, then you probably don't need to touch them. If you do need them, it's nice to be able to toggle these on or off if you wanted them to be not enabled. All right. Okay, so then this allows you to bandwidth limit some devices, and this might come in handy. I know some people will use it on things like, let's say their TV, their smart TV, or like Roku type device for streaming, where it could actually take up all of your bandwidth if you let it, but if you slow it down, it will just take a little bit longer behind the scenes to buffer, you know, and this is a way that you could limit a certain device to say, hey, I want it to only take up 10 megabits per second or something. So you could do that here. But what I don't see is I don't see anything that gives me my cellular kind of quality. On the T-Mobile 5G, you know, it gives you cell metrics so you can see what your signal strength is and your signal to noise ratio, and that really helps you pinpoint a location to get the best speed. So let's do another speed test, just since I'm connected via Ethernet to this computer, and just see what the computer shows versus my phone, which was at like 52 megabits per second down, and I forget what it was up, like 2.5 or something. Alright, so this one's certainly getting better upload. Alright, so those are not terrible numbers, and especially if you are like me in kind of the rural areas of the US. I don't have very good internet options here. My only other option besides cellular based stuff Our satellite, like Starlink, would be DSL. So DSL is, and I guess it's not true DSL. It's AT&T. I forget what they call it, but it does go over the phone lines. It's basically DSL for the last mile, and it's fiber to these local junction boxes. But anyways, I can only get about 25 megabits per second max on that, and about 4 or 5 megabits per second for upload. So even this is about double the download capability I could get with a hardline, and a little bit quicker with upload, but not as fast as my T-Mobile 5G, which isn't too surprising because this isn't. This is just Verizon's 4G LTE version. But I wanted to see the cell metrics so I could figure out what cellular bands it's actually connected to, because that 5G NSA has me wondering if it has a little bit more capability than just quote unquote 4G LTE. All right, so I'm going to run another speed test here real fast. I haven't moved the gateway. I'm just going to see how consistent it is. All right, so now I'm going to rotate the box 90 degrees, give or take, and just see if that makes a significant difference. I know on the T-Mobile 5G, it does make actually a big difference, even if I rotate it a few degrees. All right, this one seems fairly consistent, but I'm just down here in my room, so let me go upstairs to the 3rd floor and see if that makes a big difference. All right, so I know it's a little dark up here, but this is like a 3rd floor play room, and I just plugged this gateway in up here, and then I did a test. Now I'm gonna show it again here, and this is what's interesting about it. You can see it went up briefly above 90 megabits per second. So, and I can see on my phone I get better 4G signals up here. But then it tapers down to almost dead even 50, which is what it was doing downstairs. And here, this one I get about 10. I think the last time I did it, it peaked a little bit above 15. But then it works its way down and then flat lines right at this 6 megabits per second number. So it looks very clearly to me that they throttle this at a max of 50 for steady state. So no matter how good of a signal you get, it's going to cap you at 50 for download and somewhere around 6 for upload. Because I've shown that when I move it, I can get better signal in better speed. All right, a couple things to note about this. The speeds, are reasonable. It's 50 megabits per second download. It seems like that's capped there. And I think most people have enough signal. I mean, I have 1 bar sometimes of Verizon 4G. Oftentimes it's 2 around this main floor. Up on the 3rd floor, it's 3 bars out of 5. But even down here with 1 or 2 bars, it's able to get the 50 megabits per second down. You did see in certain places down here when I'm done at like 1 bar, my upload is hurting. It's like a 2 to 3 megabits per second. But anywhere else in the house, I'm getting the full 6 megabits per second upload, which is again throttled there indefinitely. So it is unlimited data, which is great. It's a little disappointing that they kind of cap the speed that you get, but that's what Verizon has chosen to do with the 4G one. On the 5G millimeter wave one, they don't do that. You can get gigabit type speeds out of it, whatever the network will support. So that's a little different between these units, and my T-Mobile unit doesn't have that cap, so I'm able to get, it does vary a lot. And the other big thing that is of note on this Verizon one is the pings are much better than T-Mobile. At least in my location, the pings I get on T-Mobile is not so much the unloaded ping, which is if you go to speedtest.net and you see that ping number, that is a unloaded ping, that it's basically just checking how quickly it can connect. But the number that you're going to care about the most, especially if you do gaming or other things like that, it is the loaded ping. So that's when it's sending data, how quickly or is there a latency there. And that's where the T-Mobile one really falls apart for at least me, and I think for other users as well. I'll get loaded pings, and I go to like fast.com to get that loaded ping number, and it might be anywhere from a couple hundred milliseconds to I've even seen a second of loaded ping lag going on there with T-Mobile. With the Verizon one, the loaded ping was much closer to the unloaded ping, so I was seeing like 50-60 milliseconds for the loaded ping side on the Verizon, and that's going to help with, you know, web browsing and getting the quick page load, getting you know, quick responses and any kind of gaming action. That's where you're going to care about that. The other thing I noted, and this could be coincidence, but I doubt it, is on the Verizon one, when you go and look on your public IP address and where that location is, where basically your devices think you're connecting to the internet through, it always showed the city that I signed up for the service. And that's something with the cellular based stuff, you don't always get that because you're connected to the gateway is connected to the wireless carrier's network, and then it doesn't leave that carrier network in the same location every time. So where it leaves the carrier network, that's where everything else thinks your device is located. So on the T-Mobile side, I'm typically somewhere in Michigan, but I've never been in my city. You know, I'm typically will be 30 miles away, sometimes 40-50 miles away. Every once in a while I get some random one. I'll be in Denver, Colorado or something, so I'm thousands of miles away as far as what, you know, a website thinks I'm at, if it's using my internet as getting my location. So that's important to note for things like live TV. If you have a service that gets local stations, then it's going to use that address or that city as a reference. And things like Hulu Live, for example, is notorious for not being very good with these cellular based stuff because they have a location that moves, and any of those Hulu Live or other live services don't like that when they think that you have moved location. So price wise, the T-Mobile one is a set $50 per month. Right now it goes up to $60 every once in a while, but this Verizon one is $40 per month if you have Verizon phone service, or it's $60 a month if you don't have Verizon phone service. So if you just sign up for this, then it's $60 a month. But there's no guarantee that it's going to stay that price indefinitely. It's not a contract, so you can cancel any time. But there's one thing they don't quite make very clear, and that's that little box, that gateway is something you have to buy. So it's $240 to buy it. Right now there is a discount where they give you that $240 in credit over 24 months, so $10 a month credit, and it ends up costing you $0. But if you were to cancel the service, then you have to pay that back. So it's $240 is what it costs. If you keep the service for 2 years, then you don't end up having to pay anything for it. But you can cancel the service within the first 30 days, and you don't have to buy out the $240, but they might stick on a $50 restocking fee. So it's not quite as no strings attached to test out and try. You're most likely going to be out at least $50 for the restocking fee, and also 1 month of service. So You're probably gonna be out around $100 just to test out the Verizon one to see if it works. The T-Mobile one, you'll only be stuck with the 1 month of service, the $50 or whatever if you cancel. So that's something to note. Overall, I think the Verizon one offers some good potentials there. The device is not geo-locked from what I can tell. I'm about an hour away from where the service address is for this 4G unit. When I plugged it in and set it up, it worked just fine out of the box. I haven't had any problems with it running. I've streamed Amazon Prime and Disney Plus with 4K on the TV without a problem. I've used my devices. All that seems to work well, and I'm not running into any issues. So it is kind of against the terms of service. It says that in order to go to a new location, you have to contact them. But at least from what I've seen right now, it doesn't stop you from moving it. So that might be of interest to some people out there. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this type of content, and then of course like the video if you think it's been helpful, and take care.